Oh, but by the way, everyone, if you see at the bottom while you're waiting,
Right.
I've set a poll up to go on the
Okay.
website because I've not done it before, so I thought I'd try it, see if it works. So if you want to have a look at the poll and check, let me know it's there.
Yep, it's there.
Feel free to answer. I'm just being nosy more than anything else.
Do you want the flippant answer?
I answer what you want. It doesn't really matter, does it? I'll be amazed if anyone's saying I'm going to say first one, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm afraid it's that one.
Right, we're a couple of minutes past, so people joining all the time. So I've set it up so I enable a waiting room, which means I have to automatically let everybody in. So I have to keep an eye on it as people join. So hence the reason I keep looking to the right. All right, well, we're a couple of minutes anyway. And I'll keep obviously adding people in as they come in, but I appreciate everyone's time is precious. Obviously, there's a few people that can't make today because of obviously the situation we're all in, and there's kids and various other things going on. And some of you may have kids running around in the background at some point. Don't worry about that. I'm not particularly bothered. So we know we'll just deal with it and we'll be fine as long as you're on mute. I'm sure it'll be fine. Frozen soundtracks and various other things that'll be going on. But so firstly, we've got 21 people on this so far, which is brilliant. And we've had probably those in the WhatsApp group will have seen we've got quite a few people who can't make it for various reasons, but they're going to watch the recording. And the good thing about this session is it lends itself fine to a recording. So we'll crack on. And I will first of all share with you. So happy for a thumbs up. Can everyone see my screen? Excellent. Well, that's the start. So just a couple of very quick housekeeping things. It's one thing I've learned from doing these calls. It's good to kind of get this out at the start, so we know what's going on and kind of the way to do it. So my intention for today, I wanted to be as positive as normal, and also try to an extent be business as usual. And now we know it's not, but let's try and hold it and do the things. And we've got a couple of guys who are going to do some good little presentations for us. That'd be no different if we weren't in this situation. So I don't want that to change. So let's be as positive as we can. Going to cover the situations for today right at the end. But again, let's just kind of try and do as we would normally do as much as possible. I believe I've got everyone on mute. That's just obviously for anything else to save background noise. If you want to jump in at any point, there's obviously the chat box which you can use, but also you can, turn yourself off mute and jump in. But if most people are off mute, it just makes it a little bit easier. I mentioned the poll for those who were on right at the start. There is a poll I've started. Feel free to answer it at the bottom. I just want to try the functionality more than anything else. As I mentioned, this call is recorded because I know there's a number of people who want to watch it back, and I know things are going on, so we'll do that. There is the chat box, which you can use again, whether it's to send messages individually to everybody. If you've got links to anything, attachments that are relevant, feel free to put in as we go along. Looking at the poll, most people have probably been on a Zoom call at some point this week. But if you haven't, you do have the option to be in speaker view or the gallery view. So the gallery view basically allows you to see everybody else. Now, maybe once we jump into so when I pass over to Matt and Phil, probably speaker view would make sense, but maybe towards the end when we have a bit more of a chat, you can kind of flick between into gallery view, and that can be done. The little thing at the top right hand corner of your screen, you should be able to do that. But any issues, please do let me know. So yeah, so today Matt's going to kick us off. He's going to talk to us all about business IP and protecting that. So the theme of today is very much protection and security of your business. Now that probably has taken a different meaning in the last week or so, but we will, again, going back to what I said, go back to the what it is in the normal world. And Matt will do his about IP, and then following Matt, I'm going to pass to Phil, who's going to talk about it kind of generally from a website point of view, and he's also going to give a bit of a demonstration on his new service, which is Glow, which is very relevant to Northern Affinity members, but I'll cover that a bit later. And then at the end, I just want to kind of talk about a few things and how we can work together. There's obviously opportunities for various reasons at this time. And then I'm going to cover right at the end the kind of external business support. Obviously, there was lots of news that came last night for people who are self-employed, and there's various issues around that. I'm going to kind of talk about what I have found out, but then also open it up, because I know I can see a number of people on this call who know what they're talking about a lot more than me when it comes to funding and finance and things like that. I can see the likes of Jeremy and Sarah on the calls who I'm sure will be able to help. So I'm going to now stop sharing my screen and pass you over to Matt, who will, I'm sure, be a lot more interested than me. If that's all right, Matt.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I'm just going to share my, hopefully share my screen. Can people give me a thumbs up if they can see that?
See your screen, Matt?
Right. Okay, so we're Sonder IP, and we look after all aspects of intellectual property. We set the business up, myself and Rachel, about 18 months ago now. We spent time working in very large firms, and what we've really wanted to do is find a way to bring our expertise and advice at a more affordable price point to a greater range of businesses. Just so you know, that's what we look like. I'm the one on the right, in case you have any doubts. And I also put that there because the photography is courtesy of La Vue Photographique, who I think Angela's on the call. So we'll give them a little plug. Great. So what I'm going to talk about is a little overview of what you can protect, because there are aspects of IP that you're all familiar with, but there'll also be some that you're perhaps not. A bit about why you can protect it, what the business benefits are, and just a little information on how to adopt a strategy. You know, it can vary a great deal from business to business, but a lot of people are finding themselves with a bit of time on their hands at the moment. So, you know, there's some tips here for how to get your house in order. You know, if you've got time, you can have a look at your business, have a look at your IP, and there's a few things you can be doing just to make yourself that bit more secure. So moving on to IP, I'm going to cover the three primary areas that we deal with are trademarks, designs, and copyright. There is also patents, which I'm not going to go into in detail. That's not something we deal with. We do work with a sister firm if you have inventions, but I think for a lot of businesses in the Northern Affinity, patents is less of an issue. So starting with trademarks. Now, everyone will be familiar with the name of the business, the logo of the business as your trademarks, but it is more than that. Those of you that would have seen Fliss's presentation last month on branding will realise, you know, there's a lot more than just the name. And you can actually protect a lot more than just the name. So as well as the words, logos, you've also got pictures, you can protect shapes, you can protect smells. I'm assuming most people won't need to, but it is possible. But colours, sounds, moving images, and holograms. So I've got a few examples here, just to give you an overview of what you might be able to protect. So the first one here is the humble Weetabix, which is a trademark I protected best part of 20 years ago now. So that is actually the Weetabix itself, and that gives them the monopoly. So they are the only ones in the European Union that can produce a breakfast cereal that looks like that. So whenever you see own label products that look like a Weetabix, they are either made by Weetabix or they are licensed by Weetabix. So you know, it's a very valuable business asset. They're making an income from their IP where they're licensing it without having to do any manufacturing. This second one, I'm hoping I was. So I'm hoping you all managed to hear that, but that's the voice of Stephen Hawking, and that is actually a registered trademark to the trust of his estate. So he's been able to protect that particular sound. It's quite distinctive. So that gives him the right to, or his estate, the right to prevent others from taking advantage of his image, his voice, to sell their products. The next one is a moving image example. Possible to go a bit further and protect, you know, if you do have moving images, ways of advertising your business that are distinctive to you and are valuable to you, then you can protect that to, you know, stop others from using it. Sorry. Bit heavy with the fingers there. You can also protect packaging. You can see Fisherman's Friend in the top right. That's one we protected a while ago and a range of that. So, you know, it can help protect the look and feel of your products if you have products. Down in the bottom left, it looks a bit odd, but this is actually a registration for the combination of the colours green and yellow. So it doesn't have to look like that. It's any use of the combination of those colours for tractors, toys, and that's owned by John Deere. And we had a case with a toy manufacturer who produced a tractor. They thought they'd done their due diligence because they weren't using the name John Deere. They weren't advertising it as a John Deere product, but it was a yellow tractor with, a green tractor with yellow wheels. We got a nasty letter from John Deere saying, you can't do that, we've got it registered. And so the client had to accept that and change the colour of their product. They complained because it no longer looked like a John Deere, but that, you know, that's entirely the point. Next up, we've got, this is what we refer to as position mark. So this is the use of red on the soles of shoes, which is, you know, well known for Labutin. So that particular shade of red, no one else can use. So it's a way of keeping their products distinctive so the public can recognize them, you know, and that adds a great deal of value to their business. Then we've got the more traditional trademarks that you'll all be more familiar with, the logo and the name itself. So I appreciate for most people that it's the name itself that's going to be their primary trademark, possibly the logo. Those that have that actually make and sell products, then yes, the packaging. But it gives you an overview of perhaps what you should be thinking about in terms of looking at your business and what might be there to be protected. So next, moving on to registered designs. This is an aspect of IP that is criminally underused. And I appreciate we've got a lot of service providers here, so it may be less relevant, but you'll come across it in your customers, if nothing else. A registered design, in short, protects the look and feel of a product. So if you've got something that's innovative looking, that you spent time and effort designing to make look attractive, to sell that product, then you can protect that. And this gives you a 25-year monopoly in this particular right. So the one on the left is Pom Wonderful, pomegranate juice you've all seen. You know, no one else can make products in that shape. So when the supermarkets want to do their look-alike version, they've got to come up with a different bottle shape that doesn't infringe their registered rights. So it gives them an opportunity to really establish that shape as indicating the source of origin, the business, and gets them ahead in the marketplace. Got another couple of examples there for you. The iPad and I think it's a Jaguar actually. And often you will see a combination perhaps between designs and trademarks for products. So at the moment, the car has reminded me, we're trying to protect the Shelby Daytona it's actually for the Carroll Shelby Trust, which for those of you that are not car fans, you may have seen the recent movie Ford versus Ferrari, or Le Mans 66, which I think it's called. It's actually the Ford in that. We're looking at protecting the shape of that. But we're not protecting it as a design, because they had a design, that's now expired. We're actually looking at protecting that as a trademark. So it can continue their rights, because trademarks can last indefinitely, where designs you have a fixed 20-year period. And finally, copyright. This will apply to absolutely everyone on this call. And a lot of people perhaps don't think of it as a valuable resource for them, a valuable property. But it is actually quite important to understand how copyright exists and what you need to do in order to protect it. So when we come to the strategy, there'll be a lot of it will relate to your copyright and how you use that in the business. So copyright effectively protects the expression of your ideas. So not the idea itself, but how you present it. So, you know, that could be artistic work. So, you know, designing your logo, not only can you register that as a trademark, but you do also have copyright protection in that. But most of us will have websites, the content, the look of that, the design of that will be copyright protected. If you're producing training manuals, brochures, advertisements, all of those are copyright works. And even your internal policy documents, so internal training, social media policy, anything like that, that will also attract copyright protection. Now, copyright is different from the others in that it automatically arises. When you create the work, the copyright is created at that point. There's no registration system for copyright. You don't actively have to do anything, which is great because it costs you nothing. You've got that protection, but it does give rise to its own issues. And I'll come on to a little bit later, but in particularly ownership and recording when, where, and who created the work. So I'm just going to talk now a little bit about why IP is valuable and why you should look at protecting it. And a lot of people, when we talk about IP, they think of counterfeit goods and, you know, the big fashion brands, pharmaceutical brands, and their fight against counterfeit products on the market. You know, yes, that's important because that's worth, you know, billions of pounds every year to the economy, to the businesses, to the tax office. But actually, the single biggest reason, in my view, to protect your intellectual property is your own business continuity and security. When you start your business or when you launch a product or an initiative or something along that, you're creating intellectual property. So whether that's the name, whether that's the materials around it. And you're investing time, effort, and money in creating something, creating a business. And what you want to do is be able to carry on doing that, being able to go out, get customers, be able to sell your products, sell your services. And if you get the IP wrong at the start, then it can all break down a bit. If you launch your business with a name that infringes someone else's rights, you know, you may spend 3 months, you may spend a year promoting this name, only to be told you can no longer use it. You're going to have to change it, and that, you know, that can be catastrophic. There are ways, you know, usually there's ways around it. We negotiate periods to change a name and things like that, but you know, it's a massive pain in the arse, and it costs money, and you don't want to have to do it. So actually taking some simple steps at the outset, and for a lot of the businesses here, you know, they may only have one trademark. It's a fairly simple process to just set them on the right track, and then you can go on, sell your business, build up the goodwill in this brand, knowing that no one's going to be able to turn around and stop you. So it very much does protect your investment that you're going to make in this name. It's also a good chance at the outset to future-proof your name. So when we look at registering a trademark or advising on the use of a trademark, we look in particular at the goods and services that you're going to use it for. So, you know, another business may have the same trademark as you, but if they're doing something completely different, most of the time that's fine. But it's a good chance to look at not what you're doing now, what's in the plan for the next 12 months, but we'll look at the next 3 to 5 years. Because if we're securing protection, we want to secure it for everything you're going to do now and everything you hope to do in the 5-year plan. So you can effectively ring fence those goods or services under your brand that you hope to, if business goes well, if plans go well, that you'll get to as and when the business grows. So it's an opportunity to sort of future-proof the business at the outset. So, I mean, I'm sure you'll all understand the value of a brand. You put a lot of time and effort into building the goodwill. Having a registered trademark allows you to retain that value and have a much more tangible way of using that value. So it creates the opportunity for you to license your brand, you know, a franchising operation, or allowing others to benefit from that goodwill and bring you an income stream in. So, you know, there are many ways in which you create value through your brand, and this is an opportunity to really store up that in a tangible form. And of course, having a good brand, having a good offering is a massive commercial advantage. The more successful you are, the more likely people are to try and copy you, to try and jump on the bandwagon, to try and benefit from, you know, association with that goodwill that you've created. Having a good IP strategy and having protected what you can and what's commercially sensible for you allows you to create that space around your brand, stop people piggybacking off of your success, keeping the distinctiveness of your brand for you, and that of course gives you a commercial advantage. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how to implement a strategy, and you know, IP strategies can range from the very simple to the hugely complicated. I think for most people on this call, you know, a very simple strategy is something that's entirely appropriate, is very easy to put in place, costs nothing in the large part, and, you know, is just a case of good practice. You know, the first stage is identifying what IP you have within your business. You know, I would always suggest take the time, have a look, you know, what have we created? It's what have we created that we really value in our business, that's intangible. So, you know, it might be your brochures, your advertising materials, the way you communicate your particular products or services. Obviously the name is going to be an issue. So, you know, take a step back and have a think about, you know, what do we have in this business? What would we be really pissed off with if other people started copying, other people started using? So you've got an idea of what IP there is within your business. And then taking that a step forward, you know, when you go into new ventures, whether it's launching a new product, launching a new service, investing in new materials for advertising, marketing, promotion, you're then equipped to identify where you're going to create new aspects of IP. The next step is really a decision point. Is this something I need to search? Do I need to be aware? Am I going to step on anyone else's toes here? Is the business going to get into trouble? Now, largely for copyright issues that I've mentioned, so website, if it's original and you've created it, then you don't need to go out and do a search. Copyright is not a strict monopoly like some of the other rights. If it's original, if you've created it, then you don't infringe anyone else's copyright. You know, if you've subconsciously pretty much copied someone, yes, there can be issues. But if you're trying to be original, trying to be creative, the copyright, that's great, that's fine. You don't need to go out and do any searching. You don't need to incur any costs. That's protected. If you are launching a new brand, a new product design, then you need to consider whether to search. And that's a simple case of phoning someone like us. We'll give you a bit of initial advice. You know, there's absolutely no charge in that as to what you need to be doing. And, you know, it's always worth doing some searching yourself. There are public resources available, or you might want to pay someone like me to go and do a search for you. And that, of all the IP stuff we do, the search is the single most important, because that's where we're telling you there are risks to using this. They might be high, they might be low, they might be acceptable, but that's should be at your decision as early as possible. So it's part of your decision process. Are we going to go ahead with this brand name? Are we going to go ahead with this product design? The next step is recording your IP. And this is particularly important for those copyright materials, which I'll come on to, because copyright, you don't register anywhere. So in order to take any action against a third party, you need to prove you own it. And in order to do that, you need to show who created it, when they created it, and what their status was. The reason I say status, and I'll come on to that in a little bit more detail, is a lot of people will use outside help for creating some of this material, whether you're using a branding agency or copyright services. You may not be creating it yourself. You're paying for it, but not creating it yourself. Now, with copyright and to an extent designs, the copyright is owned by the person that creates it, not the person that pays for it. Now, if it's created by an employee of your company, it will automatically be owned by the company, so you're fine. If you're going outside, let's say you have a branding agency design your logo, the branding agency will actually own the copyright in your logo unless there's an agreement to the contrary. Now, all good reputable branding agencies will assign that copyright to you, but you do need to make sure you actually go through that step and have some paperwork to show it. Because 2 years down the line, you find someone's copied your work, and we want to write a nasty letter to them to ask them to stop. We need to show that you own that copyright. And that is going back to who created it, what their status was, is there any paperwork around it. So, you know, one of the most important aspects of the strategy costs you nothing. It's keeping good records, it's good practice. When you're creating something worth protecting, just make sure you can demonstrate that you did just that. The next step is moving on to protection. So, as I've said, with copyright, there's no formal protection system that you need to actively go out and do anything. So you've recorded it, that's your copyright sorted. And I think for a lot of the people here, that's going to be, you know, probably 90% of the IP needs covered. No cost, good record keeping, it's there if ever you need it. In terms of the trademarks, you know, you're not obliged to protect it, but there's significant value in protecting it. It's worth noting that trademarks are territorial, so you get protection in the UK. That gives you that security in the UK, but if you then want to go and sell your products or services in the US, it's a separate process. You have no protection by virtue of your UK trademark registration. So we need to think about going back to the search stage. We look at the US. Are you free to use it in the US? Yes. Okay, we'll look at going and protecting that. Protecting a trademark can be a time-consuming process. A UK registration takes about 4 months to get. You can get EU-wide protection, which takes about 6 months to get. Other countries like the US, it's 18 months. So it is worth planning in advance. Your rights do date from the day that you file for protection, and the fact if we've done a search, we have a good idea whether your application is going to go through to registration. So you've got the advice at the outset. You don't necessarily need to wait for the protection to be in place, because if we've assessed the risks and are happy with them, then you're good to go. And the majority of businesses, you know, even very large, very IP savvy businesses, will rarely wait till the marks are registered before they go and launch products. Just so you have an idea, in the UK, the fees at the UK Intellectual Property Office for protecting a trademark are £170. It lasts for 10 years, then you renew every 10 years. So, you know, it's a relatively small cost in launching your business and protecting your name indefinitely. So certainly well worth doing. I mentioned ownership before, so I just want to cover that because it's probably the single biggest issue we run into. It's quite common for all businesses to get this wrong. It's quite simple to get right, but it is a case of just being aware of it and just largely good record keeping. With a trademark, the ownership rests with the first to file a trademark application. So you can find yourself in a situation where if you don't register, you find you've been using your mark for 6 months. If someone else has filed something after you've started using, but before you file an application yourself, you can find yourself in a situation where you can no longer use your trademark. So it is good practice to file that at the earliest opportunity, get that name protected. A lot of the businesses here, as I say, you've probably got 1, maybe 2 trademarks. It's something to tick off as soon as you can, and then you don't have to worry about it. As I mentioned with the copyright, this is the one to really be careful with. We found it certainly with some, you know, really very big businesses where we've had issues with someone copying their logo in a country where they don't have a trademark registration. So we've looked to take action on the basis of copyright. We're talking large multinationals, and we asked them, okay, can you show us that you own the copyright to this logo? Who created it? When did they create it? And were they an employee? And they have no idea. There's no paper trail. There's nothing. So you've got, you know, really quite famous logos, which no one knows that they actually own the copyright. They simply can't prove it. With designs, it's exactly the same arrangement. If they're not an employee, you do need to get an agreement in place that you own the design. So if you are collaborating with third parties, you need to think about who's going to own the IP and make that clear at the outset, and make sure there's the paperwork in place. You know, if you've had logos created or anything like that and you haven't yet got an assignment, let me know. I can give you an assignment free of charge. You know, it's a boilerplate that transfers the ownership over to you. Give that to your branding agency and they'll almost certainly sign it. You know, in 20 years with a branding agency, I've only come across an issue once where they've refused to play ball. It was actually for a very large company. They refused to sign the copyright of this advertising material, and you know, they promptly got sacked and were never used again, and you know, it's largely to their detriment. So generally it's not an issue, but it's one of those things. It's best to get in place now, so you're covered. You've got it there should you ever need it. So I appreciate that's a bit of a whistle stop, but I wanted to give a few simple steps that people could implement and give them enough to think about rather than going into too much detail. It can get very complicated. I think for most people here, it needn't be complicated, but I'm happy to listen to any questions you might have now, or obviously there are my details if you want to get in touch.
Thank you, Matt. If anyone does any questions, obviously feel free to shout them out. I now realise that basically everything to do with Northern Affinity is owned by either Fliss, Gemma, Phil, or Angela, which is a slight worry. There we go. But yeah, has anyone got any questions? Obviously, I'm sure Matt will be happy. Phil, you got a question?
I have, yes. Good timing this, Matt, actually, because I've just launched a new app for my business, Glow. And I think the question really is around, I mean, I've been there in the past when I've seen other businesses in a similar industry with the same name and kind of being okay. But I think it's understanding how can you quite quickly check what's the best way to sort of quickly check if someone with the same name is, trademarked in the same industry, because I know there's loads of different like classes and stuff, isn't there? So
yeah, so you can go on the Intellectual Property Office website, and that search function. So you click on trademarks, click on search trademark, and it gives you the options of searching either by the trademark number, which presumably you haven't got, or by the owner. So you can put in the company name, and it will show you all the trademarks they own. Or there's a if you like, more free-form search where you can put in what the trademark is, what the goods are, and that will select the classes for you, and that will search and show you those.
I see. Cool.
I mean, if there's someone particular that you're looking for, you can just give us a shout. We'll find it for you.
Cool. Thank you.
Hi, I've got a question, Matt. I have a lot of, in fact, more or less all I have is intellectual property, really, which is things like training resources and materials and things like that. And obviously, I put a copyright and a date in the bottom of Brightbird. If somebody did just decide, let's say I've done some training at a school, they want good value for money, so they take my stuff and then they photocopy that out to everybody else in the school. And let's say it's a multi-academy trust, so there literally could be hundreds of people who haven't paid for that, but have then been given my stuff. A, is there anything I can do about it? And B, what can I do to protect that from happening in the first place?
Yeah. So in terms of what you can do, the provisions for any kind of IP infringement are largely the same, which effectively you can get an injunction to stop them doing what they're doing, stop the copying. You can get damages or an account of profits, and you can also get your legal costs. Now, it's incredibly rare that we ever have to go that far. That's obviously quite serious. So the first step is always, writing to them. We point out what your rights are, how you derive those rights, which is why I say the record keeping is so important. So we would say, this is our copyright work. You are copying it. Usually we need to prove that they're copying it. So we'd set out the circumstances. And then we would ask for undertakings, and you and I would discuss, how you want to resolve that. So it might be, they undertake to promise never to copy it again. They pay you an amount that you're happy with for having done so, and an amount for your legal costs. So, as I say, 95 to 99% of copyright or other infringements are resolved, I would call amicably, in the sense that no one really wants to fight about it, and most people will accept when they've copied and done something wrong. but you do need that good record keeping to show that it's yours. In terms of how you prevent it happening, it's a case of, you know, making it clear at the outset when you're talking with them. You know, you're putting a proposal to them. You can simply state in that, we will provide X number of materials of our copyright protected training manuals for your use. If you want more, these are available at X amount.
Right, okay.
So, you know, you make that clear. And because that also adds a layer in that rather than infringing your copyright, they would also be potentially in breach of contract.
Okay.
It can be a much simpler legal action.
Yeah, okay. Right, that's great. Do you have any recommended wording or point me to anywhere that could to put that, you know, in my terms and conditions for a agreement of contract with a?
Yeah, I can drop you an email, some recommended wording. It's just making it clear that it is your copyright and asking them to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Because presumably they're going to sign these terms. So having them acknowledge it, when they then turn around and copy it, then, you know, they're in breach of that provision.
Fine, that's great. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you. Anyone else got any questions? Excellent. So we'll thank you very much for that, Matt. It was really good, really useful.
I put one in the chat. Could have a copy of the assignment, Matt, please? You know, the form that you talked about. Would you be able to forward one of those on, please?
Yeah, feel free to forward it to me, and I can send it out to everyone as well if that's easier. That's no problem.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Excellent. So if we will now move to Phil.
Hi, everyone.
Are you okay to stop sharing your screen, Matt?
Yes.
And then I'll pass it to Phil. So,
there we go.
So just quickly before I pass to Phil, I'm not going to steal his thunder, and I'll talk to you about what I was going to talk about. But basically, with Phil, what we're going to do is essentially we're going to partner up with the Northern Affinity and something what he's doing now to offer a service to you guys first and foremost, which like I said, I won't steal Phil's thunder and I'll talk about it, but also potentially for you guys to offer to your customers as well. We're just kind of working out exactly how we're going to do that, but we know it's doable. And the idea is, firstly, it's an extra service that you can offer, which is great, but also potentially it's essentially a residual income for everyone else as well. So I'll be more details on that later. Me and Phil are just kind of working out how to do that in practicalities, but there's potentially a lot of good opportunities in there, like I said, both internally for you and your business, but then also further down the line, potentially for your customers or your contacts or anyone you know, really. Anyway, I won't blabber on anymore. I'll let Phil tell you what it's actually all about. So pass it over to you, Phil, and go ahead.
Thanks, Mike. Morning, everybody. It's the first time I've spoken to you guys actually all at once. So hope you're all coping okay through this mess that we're all in at the moment. Thanks to Matt as well. That was really interesting and extremely timely, particularly for me launching a new product. So that was great, and I'll definitely be getting in touch. Almost like you've planned it, Mike, actually. Incredibly. I've got a cat here who's currently asleep and very quiet, but he is mental when he's awake. So if I have to get up and take him out of the room, then I will do. So, okay, so I will press on and just share my screen first of all. So you should all see a big glow in the middle of the screen, hopefully.
Yep.
So I'm first going to talk about what Glow is. As Mike mentioned a few minutes ago, we specialise in website support, so it's like ongoing maintenance of websites, basically. The idea being that they are performing as well as they can do at all times, for obvious reasons. It's your first port of call for a lot of people when they're looking up your business. And of course, if you're spending any kind of money marketing your business online, then you need to make sure that the basics are right with the website itself. You know, is it fast to load? Does it perform well? Is it, you know, clear what's going on? Otherwise, it's kind of wasted marketing spend. So if it's okay with you guys, I'm gonna press on and talk a bit more about what Glow is. I'm gonna do a very, very brief tour of the app that we've developed without getting too technical, because I appreciate the kind of world I'm in is, well, you can be bombarded with technical information that goes straight over your head, basically, and I think that's just a complete waste of time. And then at the end, I'm going to share a few tips for your own website as well, which hopefully means you'll at least go away with some things that you can put into action to just make your website a little bit more secure at the end of today versus what it was like at the end of yesterday. So I will crack on. So firstly, what is Glow? Well, Glow is an app, as I've just described, and it's everything to do with how your website is supported to make sure that it runs as well as it possibly can all the time. And I've been delivering website support as a service for years, basically. And the most common question that I've had over those years kind of goes a little bit like this. Okay, Phil, so I've just spent £3,500 on my new website. Why do I now need to spend 40, 50 quid a month to maintain it all the time? Haven't I just paid you to kind of make it good? And I always give my clients two responses to that question. Firstly, I give an analogy, and that is the analogy of a car. So let's say you've just gone out and spent, I don't know, 25 grand leasing it for a Volkswagen Golf. Would you then spend the next 5 years with that Volkswagen Golf and not put any air in the tyres, not wash the car, not give it an MOT, not service it, not put any fuel in it, not clean it? And the answer to that question, hopefully, is a resounding no from all of you here this morning. And the reason that you would do those things to the car is to make sure that whenever you come to sit in it and drive it, is so that it works as well as it can do, and it's not going to let you down along the way wherever you're going. So there's no difference with your website. Just when you spend that money on investing in a new website in the first place, there's no guarantee that 5 years later it's going to be working absolutely perfectly and bringing you loads of business all the time if you don't pay attention to making sure it's kept performing well over those years. So always think about that analogy of a car if you're talking about website support. And then a case study is a great way to kind of prove the need for looking after your website diligently. And the best case study that I can use recently is that we were referred to a professional services company based in North Yorkshire. So they weren't a client of ours, but they were passed to us to kind of help out, basically. And if you can just for 2 seconds, please don't shout the answer out, imagine the dodgiest website that you can think of online. And now imagine that whenever anybody's trying to access your website, they're being redirected to the dodgy one. And of course, that is not a great impression to be giving your prospective customers, existing customers, anybody really who's looking for your brand online. What a terrible experience that is. So we were brought in to do what we call a hack investigation to find out, why this had happened. And we found out that it was because the basic stuff on the security of the website hadn't been kept up to date. And we found out that it actually took us back about 6 months as to when the hack began. And it had got so bad that that client had to build a new website from scratch when they could have just been paying 40, 50 quid a month to keep things hunky-dory, basically. So, yeah, not a great one. So that client was obviously quite frustrated. It's also a service that's delivered quite poorly. And I am talking about website support, but I'm kind of talking about support for any business, a lot of the time. I've had a bit of a nightmare this week with my Wi-Fi in my house with Virgin Media. I don't know if you've all been the same, but I think it's probably because everybody's working from home now, but it seems to get to about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then it just as a hissy fit, basically. You ring Virgin Media up and it's an hour and a 15-minute wait on the phone or something, you know, and it's just crazily bad level of support. So web support is no different. And that's primarily because, hopefully there's no web developers on this call, but it's primarily because web developers aren't brilliant communicators. They're very, very good technically at what they can do with websites and applications, but their actual service of support isn't fantastic. So that's where Glow can come in and kind of, you know, knock them out the park really in terms of the way that we deliver our support. Because we've been doing it for so long, we've learned, you know, what clients value in terms of receiving the service, you know, right down to, you know, do we use a support ticket system, or do we use the phone, or do we use email, and what kind of language do we use? You know, we always ask our clients whenever we've sorted something, we always then ask them, you know, is there anything else we can help you with at the moment? So there's loads of facets to it, but generally speaking, I think across the board, it's delivered quite poorly. So I'll come back to that question again. Do I need it for my website? Well, yeah, of course you need it for your website if you're any kind of serious about making your website successful. It's extremely important, but it's also extremely time consuming as a service as well. So when you start to think about all the different aspects of looking after your website, you start to build up a picture of, actually, this is going to take me hours to do this for my own website. So you're changing images, you're performing security updates, you've got hopefully blogs to write and add onto your website. You want to make sure that it loads quickly all the time. So the digital marketing experts in the group, like Simon and Vicky, will always be telling you, you know, fast loading pages are better for your marketing results, because let's face it, there's nothing worse trying to get on a website and it's, you know, loading quite slowly. It's annoying. You'll leave and you'll go elsewhere. Testing that the forms work on your website, making text changes. You get the idea. There's a lot to it, basically. So it's a big time saver to be able to use something like Glow so that you can just crack on running your own business and making some more money. So with Glow in place, you don't need to think about your website. It's there for your website all the time, a little bit like Big Brother, but for your website instead of wannabe Z-list celebrities. So Glow is kind of like your website's new best friend, basically. It's there for it through thick and thin. When times are good, when times are bad, it's always there. So who's it for? Well, we've got 3 different audiences for our business. And first and foremost, obviously, actual businesses with websites, of which that would account for almost everybody in business, of course. So if you have a business, then you are a good target for Glow. So we, you know, always welcome introductions to people with their own business, their own website, so we can help them with it. And we actually do work with web developers, which might seem a little bit strange, but web developers who already provide website support as a service, but they're probably doing so via email, or they're getting a text message from the client on a Sunday afternoon when they're at the mum's house having dinner or something. So, you know, it's a bit kind of disjoint, a bit all over the place. So web developers can rent our app and provide the service in a more professional manner to their clients. And then we also work with people that we call resellers, basically. So these are companies that are in a very similar industry to us. So that could be marketing agencies, marketing consultants, branding companies, creative agencies. These guys are always talking to the same sorts of people that we talk to, basically. But by reselling the Glow app and packaging it up as their brand, they're able to create another revenue stream for their business. And the Glow team will do all the work in the background. So it's a good opportunity for people in a similar industry who don't offer website support as a service to get involved and make some more money, basically, without actually having to do any work for that extra income on an ongoing basis. So this week has been, if you've seen me tweet or LinkedIn this week, it's been our first week of launching the app to our resellers, and we've been doing demos all week. So I've been very humbled by the response. Actually, it's been extremely positive. So it's quite an exciting time amid all the chaos at the moment. I'm going to give you a very quick tour because, like I said at the start, I don't want this to turn into some kind of technical lesson, but hopefully it'll just give you a bit of an idea, because I know, you know, there's visual learners, and then, oh God, do you know what, I've forgotten all the different types, kinesthetic and all that, whatever they are. I know there's people who like reading and there's people who like looking at pictures. So let's do the looking at pictures bit. And I'm just going to have to stop sharing my screen and then share it again, I think, to get the app. Bear with me a sec. Sorry, guys. I know why. There we go. Can you all see the screen now? Does it say client's mic? You've got, yeah, okay, great. So as I said a few minutes ago, we have resellers that package Glow up and put it in front of their clients, basically, so they can talk to their clients about the sort of stuff that we do. But as you can see, this example is branded as the Northern Affinity. So this is our app. I appreciate it's a little sparse at the moment, but of course that's because the data within it is what we call demo data. But hopefully you're building up a bit of a picture in terms of what it is. So this is kind of our hub for delivering our website support service. And it lists here the clients that the Northern Affinity have currently got added as an example. So we can kind of look at each client in terms of what's going on. It date stamps all of the activity that's being done within the app, and has a full connection with the system that the website runs on. So we're able to perform all of our service from within our app. And it's really quite a unique system, actually, because the elements of the app exist in isolation in other places around the internet, but there isn't anything else that has it all in one place like Glow does. So we are quite pleased that we've come up with something that's a little bit different, actually, and we're being told that as well by the people that we're running the demos with. So like I said, IT support companies, marketing agencies, these guys are interested in reselling it. And they're giving me lots of positive feedback about it, which is fantastic. It's got a full support ticket system built in. Clearly there aren't any there at the moment because it's a demo system. And it's got a neat little profit tracker built in for our resellers as well to, you know, just add whatever they're reselling our plans for. They can very quickly sort of see the amount of extra profit that's being made. I'm not going to go into it in too much detail, but just so you know, I wanted you to see the Northern Affinity version because maybe just gives you a bit of an idea of how it looks and how it works. But we've had some really, really good feedback about that this week. So I would be very, very grateful if you know any companies like those ones that I've just described to you. I promised that I'd give you some little tips for your own website. Hopefully if you've got a website for a start. I think the thing that I haven't mentioned yet is that Glow is for WordPress websites only. You may or may not have heard of WordPress, but it is a what we call a content management system that kind of sits behind a lot of websites. So if your business's website is built on WordPress, then Glow can help. And I'm just going to actually quickly show you a neat little tool if you don't know the answer to that question. So you can come onto our website here and it will tell you if your website is on WordPress or not. So let's, for example, use the Northern Affinity as an example. If I click check here, there you go. Your website is running on WordPress. Happy days. So if you're sat there now thinking, oh, I haven't got a bloody clue if my website's on WordPress or not, then you can go over to our website to check that. So I'll come back to the presentation now. Because I appreciate, you know, if you're in IP, for example, then you might not know if your website's running on WordPress or not. So there's a little link there. I'm not sure if Mike's going to be sending slides around. I would imagine he probably will be doing. So that link there will just take you to our website to find out if your website runs on WordPress or For those of you that don't know, WordPress is exceptionally popular as a tool for building websites and managing websites. It actually accounts for around a third of the entire internet. So every chance your website and the website of your clients is running on WordPress. So there's lots of people that we can help. I promise I'll give you some tips. So you might want to just get your pen in your hand and write these down. Of course, after you've actually been to our website to check that yours is running on WordPress. And firstly, we strongly advise that you always change the default login to your website. And I provided a screenshot here of an accountancy firm in Cornwall. I wanted to pick a business that was as far away from here as possible to hope that nobody knows who they are. So if you can see that screenshot, I've highlighted in the web address bar at the top, it says WP admin. And essentially, every hacker in the world knows that the default login to a WordPress website is /WP admin. So that would be the first place to check on your own website if that is also true of your site. If it is, then that's a really easy way for them to start trying to get into your website. And as soon as they're in, they'll put some horrible little script somewhere and you'll end up in the same situation as that case study I gave you earlier where your customers are being redirected to some horrible things. So that is number one, always change it. And you can change it to whatever you want. You can change it to /donuts or / I don't know, sunshine, whatever you want it to be. As long as it's not WP admin, then that's a great start. Number two is to always update what we call the plugins on your website. So whoever's built your WordPress website for you will definitely have used one or two plugins. And the reason they do that is because plugins extend the functionality of your site. So a good example of a plugin would be a plugin for search engine optimization, where you can do different things with your website to make it try and rank it higher on Google search engine. But because these are kind of built separately to your website, they need updating. So as soon as they go out of date, you'll see a little screen like this in the back end of your website, and it'll say, the following plugins have new versions available. So as soon as you see that, you should be updating that plugin as quickly as possible. And the reason for that is because, again, these crafty little hackers know what the vulnerabilities are in old versions of plugins. So if you leave that for weeks and months on end, eventually a hacker is going to get in because they know it's out of date and it needs updating for security reasons. So as soon as you see that, tick the little box, click update plugins, and then you're covered. Now, we would still always advise that you work with a website support company, because it can go wrong even when you update it, because sometimes new versions conflict with other areas of the website. And if you're then faced with something that's gone a bit wrong, you know, you wish you would have had a web developer on hand to sort it out for you. But for all intents and purposes, you have to go in and click a box and click update, and you know, you should be okay. Third one, there's only 4 tips, by the way. I don't want it to get too technical. The third one is to always change what we call the default username on your website. So the one I gave you before was to change the default login, and this is to change the default username. Every WordPress website, every install of WordPress comes with one user account, and that user account always has the username of admin. And again, I sound like a broken record here. I was looking at my cat, he's just woken up, sorry. Every hacker in the world knows that the one user account that comes with WordPress websites is admin. And the amount of times that we've seen clients leave their only username login as admin is unbelievable. So you should always create a new username, a user account, and get rid of, completely delete the one that has the username of admin. Give an example here. Here's the list of users on a website for one of our clients. So you've got us guys at the top here. this is actually my brother's website, so he's not going to mind. And then you can see that my brother and his wife there have their own unique usernames as well. So admin doesn't appear anywhere. So if you log into your website and it says admin, add a new account, get rid of that admin one as soon as possible. I'm just going to take my cat out of the room because I know he's going to go mad. Come on.
I bet you've never done that during a presentation before.
No, that's a first. And then finally, I mean, you'll have seen this kind of piece of advice probably in a million different locations, but that's why I've underlined the word please and put bold, but use a strong password, because it is phenomenally easy for people who know what they're doing to guess the password for your website. I've had my own eyes opened in developing our app at how easy these guys that know what they're doing it is for them to get around the internet with just a tiny bit of information. So hopefully what you're getting from this is that all these little things are just making it harder and harder for anybody to ever get into your website. And of course, the ones that I'm showing there are some terrible but very common examples of passwords that we see. So password 123 is a particular favourite of mine. A lowercase version of your business name, also not good, or your name with your date of birth. Think of something that's very difficult to guess. And there's things you can add to your website as well that kind of check how secure your password is. So, use exclamation marks, uppercase, lowercase letters, numbers, all that sort of stuff to make it really difficult. So hopefully that's helpful. Thanks very much for your time. I appreciate web development can get a bit technical sometimes, so I've tried my very best to keep it as plain English as possible for you guys, and not to insult anybody there, obviously. And if you've got any questions, then please speak up, and I'll be happy to answer them for you.
I do quickly, Phil. Actually, I don't know if you've got it to hand. I hope I'm not putting you on the spot here. Do you have any view of the front end of the system as a user? So if, I use Phil for my website support. So going down the line, how I would use the
front end of the app from a client point of view.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just very quickly.
Yeah, I think I do. Possibly.
Don't worry if not.
Well, guess what? I've created a password so strong I can't remember what it is. So the answer is no, I don't right now. No, sorry, mate.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I'm sure we can share that later down the line.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I can send a link around for it. No problem at all.
Yeah, so from what I understand, Phil, the idea is rather than having to use email or text, as you said, it's just a site you go on. You say, well, I've got this issue. Please, can you sort it out? And you can see what's happening. You can see what updates have been done to your website. It gives you visibility, essentially.
It does. It gives you visibility and transparency, because I appreciate with the service that we offer, it's a bit of a silent service. So when clients are hiring us to carry out security updates on their website, or test that the forms are working, or make things run faster, you as the client can't, well, maybe the speed that you could, but you can't actually see any of that. So you just kind of trust that we're doing our job properly, which of course we are. But what the app does is it gives a timestamp of every action that's taken. So as soon as we do anything on your website, it gets recorded in the app, and then a report gets sent out to the client at the intervals that the client wants it to be sent to them, because it's not the most exciting of subjects. So clients can sort of set how often they want to hear from the app. So let's say they want to hear from it every 6 weeks, and they want a WhatsApp message when they hear from it, or they want it every 2 months and they want it by email. So it's completely customizable by the client. And the reason for that is because we sent a survey out to our clients last year to ask them about web support, what they value about it, what they like, what they don't like. And the conclusion that I made was that everybody's different. So some people will be logging in and looking at it quite regularly, and other people don't want to hear from it, regularly at all, and they'll set it to every 3 or 4 months or something like that. So it gives them full transparency over everything that's going on. And Yeah, I mean, I haven't talked too much about it because I didn't want it to turn into a sales pitch, but we are building in something called the Bright Ideas section, which is completely around this kind of notion of proactive rather than reactive support. So the Bright Ideas section will kind of populate in the client's login of articles and information relevant to their industry that will help them with their website and, you know, conversions and getting more inquiries and that sort of stuff. So if you can see the wall next to me here, it's full of sticky notes of ideas and features that I'd like to bring out in the future. So, but yeah, you got it right there, Mike. Thank you.
Cheers, Phil. Anyone else got any questions for Phil this time? Marcus.
Okay. Yeah, great presentation, Phil. Thanks for that.
Thank you.
That first point about changing your default login, I think, is really helpful because I've got about 4 websites and they're all hackable, according to you. So my first question was, is that something that I can just do within the control panel? And the second point was, I get so many spam comments, thousands every year. Some of them appear in Russian. So is that because of that WP admin that's there and that's other people accessing my website?
So to answer your first question, no, you can't change the login just from the back end. So you'll need to install a plugin to be able to change that default login URL. And the best one is called All-in-One WordPress Security. So if you know how to install plugins yourself, then you log in, install the plugin, and there's a section within that plugin called Brute Force. So if you find that, that's where you can change the default login, and it's dead easy. You just change it in the little box that it gives you. As for the spam, that is unfortunately just symptomatic of having a WordPress website because it's such a popular piece of software. There's loads and loads of people around the world that know everything about it, basically. So they know how to annoy you with spam. But if you log into your website and click on there's a settings menu, and then within settings there's a section called discussion. If you click on discussion, you can do a bit towards stopping spam email coming through, and you'll want to tick a box that says comments must be manually approved. So tick that, and then there's another option that will I'm trying to think of the word off the top of my head. It's something along the lines of people need to be logged in to be able to comment. It's something like that. You'll see it when you have a look. But yeah, it is an unfortunate symptom that you will get some spam, but there are a few things that you can do to limit it. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah. I was just going to point that on that point actually, Marcus, because I had a similar problem with the Northern Affinity website several months ago. I believe what we put on the capture form.
Yeah,
you see on a lot of websites.
Yeah.
So it stops. If I was getting to a point where all of a sudden I was getting 5 or 6 a day of these random emails.
They come and go,
and that's pretty much stopped all that now. I can't remember the last time I get one.
Yeah, the capture's a good shout. If you've got a Google My Business page, which again, you know, Simon and Vicky, marketing experts, will suggest that you have a Google My Business page because it's good for local visibility. We can get the capture installed via that, basically. So,
nice one. Thank you.
No worries.
Any other questions? Anyone at this point? Nope, that's fine. Thank you very much, Phil. And I'm sure Phil will answer any questions if anyone wants to drop him a line at any point. We're about to do that. So, hopefully, can you all see my screen now? I have some thumbs up. Perfect. So I'll go back to that. So, keyboard's deciding it doesn't want to play. Here we go. So I wanted to mainly talk about a few things we can do to support each other and obviously what these times we're in right now. And I think, to be fair, from what I can see, most of this stuff people are doing anyway, which is amazing, and it's been brilliant. There's been a lot of activity, the guys, and I know a lot of people have been talking, whether it's in bigger groups or one-to-one, and that's all I'll say. I just keep picking up the phone to people, using Zoom calls, whatever it needs to be. It might be for business reasons. It might just be to give you a bit of a pickup sometimes, because obviously I'm sure the next, hopefully, few weeks and not much longer going to be tough at times for everyone. There's going to be good days and bad days, but just keep talking to each other and keep going with that, as you all doing anyway. most of you are probably aware, I've set up a Twitter list for those who are on Twitter through the Northern Affinity. Basically, all the Northern Affinity partners, I think, and I need to check that it's definitely all there, are on that list. If for every reason you notice you're not, please let me know. The purpose of that list is essentially to give you a second news feed within your Twitter, and it will just be full of people who are on that list. So it's really simple and easy to then like, comment, share a few posts. You know, I do it most days, and it probably takes me 30 seconds to share 5 or 6 posts that you guys do. And just, you know, it's little things like that that can really help each other, especially the guys who are active on there. I wish some of the other social medias that have that facility, because it's really, really useful. But maybe in the future. I'm currently putting together, and I've kind of got most information. It's just pulling it all together now, which is a spreadsheet of all the partners, because obviously you probably will have noticed, for those in the Facebook group, we've had quite a lot of new guys join us recently. I'm just kind of pulling all that information together, so bear with me, but hopefully I'll have that out next week. So you know who's in the group, allows you to help and talk to each other. But the change I'm going to make to it is I'm going to make it a lot easier for you to use essentially as a working document for things like making sure you followed each other on the social media platforms. Phil has just mentioned very perfectly the Google My Business. For those of you who've got Google My Business, one of the big things that are important are reviews on your account for local SEO, well, for SEO in general. I know Angela, for example, I know she does a lot with hers, where she's got lots of reviews on, I think got 50 plus, is that right, Angela, on their website? It really helps. And the one thing I want to point out is, because everyone here is linked up via essentially the Northern Affinity website as the middle point, everybody's website, we're all connected to each other. So if you're helping improve the SEO of other people's website within the group, you're helping yourselves as well. It is a web, isn't it? And we can do things. So if you have worked with someone else in the group, you have collaborated with them, if you have done some business with them, leaving a review on their Google My Business helps them, but potentially helps you as well, and actually helps everybody else. And it's one big circle. And I'm sure that Phil mentioned the people in the group that will be able to tell you about stuff like that more than I can, the likes of Simon and Vicky, and they'll be able to tell you all about it, and Anna, and they all know about that kind of thing as well. One thing that I'm going to hopefully show you is I also have set up Workspace by Facebook. Can you see now what looks like a bit like a Facebook page? Yep. So Workspace is totally separate to Facebook. You don't have to have a Facebook page personally to have this. But what it is it's a place it's generally used for businesses to communicate and collaborate with each other. Some of you may be aware of it, some may not. So what I've done in the last week or so is set this up for Northern Affinity, and I'm getting to grips a bit more with the functionality myself. But what it's going to allow us to do is, you'll be pleased to know there'll be things like we could essentially take the WhatsApp group within this. We can take any, or just about every email that maybe I send or other people send into this, any event invites and all that kind of thing. And the advantage of this is it looks like Facebook, and it's got the functionality like Facebook. So for most of us, we're pretty familiar with it. We've probably used it to some degree. I'll just quickly can see on the screen here, we can set up different groups. So we can have the guys who are in the marketing world in one group. We can have a general group, which we would, which is, as you can see there, we'll have a marketing team and a finance and protection team. So it allows that kind of collaboration between people who might work in certain areas that are really that work well together within this platform. We can put documents on there, so anyone who's got PDFs or anything that's useful information, for example, what Phil's just done, if he had a one-page PDF that explained a bit more about what Glow is and some screenshots, he can put it into there. It just saves having emails sent back and forward and trying to find them. It's all stored in one place. Like I said, I'm still getting used to all the functionality of it, and that's why I'm just waiting to kind of invite everybody else in. You could probably might be able to see at the moment. So I first sent it to Gemma, and she's in there, and they've set up within this already their own team. So there's 3 of the guys from So Contented. They've got their own group as well. So you can even do that as well. So there's a real useful functions to this. And I think it'll help, like I said, take a lot away from emails and Eventbrite notices and all this kind of thing. And WhatsApp even, it's all in one place. It really enable the collaboration. So again, bear with me. I'm just getting used to the functionality myself before I roll it out. But hopefully you'll probably get an invite to it soon. And once we've got that, maybe we'll look at getting the best out of it for everybody. Okay. So I can see something on chats. Oh, Simon, yeah, it was. Well, yeah, I should have mentioned it was Simon who actually pointed this out to me. Sorry, Simon, I should have said a week or so ago. He pointed me out to this and said how useful it was, and it looks really good. So, thank you for that, Simon. There is an app for it, so there's a chat app just like there was in Facebook as well. So, sending messages to each other individually as well as in groups, you can do through there. So, thanks for the reminder, Simon. So, I'll quickly stop that share. And go back to this. And the other thing I just wanted to talk about very briefly was a lot of the focus I'm going to be thinking about in the next few weeks is how do we all come out of all this stronger? There's a lot of short-term concern for people, and get that completely, obviously. But how can we do things, things like the workspace for Facebook, if we can help get it set up and it's maybe a good time for people to get used to the functionality, it might really enable us as Northern Affinity to be stronger when we come out the other side. And obviously then everybody else within the group. So what things can we do? And that's going to be a big focus for me. And if anyone's got any ideas, give me a call, send me an email, whatever, and always happy to listen to that. I wanted to very briefly finish on the stuff that's going around at the moment, because I know it's the thing that's kind of the big hot topic for everybody, is around things like grants and loans. There's been lots of talk about this. Very briefly summarize some of it. I don't want to go in all of it because there's a lot to it. But very, very simply, grants are available for businesses if you've got a premises, basically. So if you pay small business rate relief, I believe it's £10,000 grant that will be coming. They say in early April, so we'll see on that one. And anybody with bigger premises, there's various things like rate relief and grants, I think up to 25 grand as well. So that's one thing. I know it's not applicable for that many people in the group, but it potentially will be for some. The business loan scheme now, I can see Sarah particularly is on this call, so she can maybe mention this in a bit more detail. I know that the banks have rolled this out this week. They've got slightly different maybe takes on this. Some of the banks, to start with, most of them were taking personal guarantees, which, if you don't know personal guarantees, basically that is if it comes to it and you can't pay, they could take your house off you. But some of them, I know Barclays have pulled that as a functionality for anything under 250k, and a few other banks have as well. So I think the fact that one or two have done it, more are probably going to do it in the future. So hopefully that's good news on it. It does start at 25,000. So for a lot of people, it's maybe they don't need that much, but there is other kind of just the normal lending type of facilities out there. So Sarah, I don't know if you want to add anything to that I've said about the business loans.
Hi, Mike. Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think they soon realised that they were going to be upsetting a lot of people with the personal guarantee side of things. So I think, yeah, like you just said about Barclays, I think they had a bit of what's the thing? I think they had a bit of bad press around it, didn't they? I think they realised that they needed to do something quickly. I get the feeling that they're going to follow suit. I've also spoken to a number of unsecured lenders that are trying to get to become part of the scheme, and they are saying that they're almost in the running for it. So that might be something that could help, because they're going to be a little bit quicker than turning stuff around in the high street banks. That said, nothing has been confirmed, so until that is confirmed, I'll let you know. But that's the likes of Just Cashflow and iWalker and those types of people, which they can be a little bit more expensive. But that said, if it's a difference between getting funded and not getting it, it maybe does potentially make that difference. I know that from what I've heard, Mike, and you'll probably agree, I know there's clients that have been on hold for 3, 4, 5 hours to the banks. Whereas these guys, the likes of your iWalkers and Just Cash, they have online platforms which you probably can get decisions a lot quicker for some of the smaller amounts. So it's just kind of waiting out for it, really. But I know they're definitely in talks right now with the government to try and be part of it.
Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, like I said, I just want to quickly run through this because I know it's been done a lot, and I'm sure Sarah will be happy to answer any questions offline with anyone, and I am as well. Like I said, I'm not in that world anymore, but it's an area I do know a reasonable amount. I am speaking to a lot of people about the information, so trying to relay it as much as possible. I'm sure most of you have seen the thing about the furloughing of employees, and for those of you who do have employees, there is a little bit of question marks around how that works for directors, but I think we're gonna have to wait on that one a little while before that gets confirmed. And then the final point was just last night. I'm sure most of you saw the information about freelance and self-employed support for people, so traders. Just to clarify, it doesn't include you if you have a limited company, even if it's just you and you're on PAYE, it doesn't include you. There is some talk that the furlough thing will be available for those people, but they can still work in the business if they can prove there's a certain percentage of the business that they've lost from it. That's not confirmed, and I've only heard that from a couple of people. It might just be one of them silly rumors, but obviously if I hear anything, I will pass it on to other people. So we'll have to see on that one. It's not available till June anyway, so they've obviously got a bit of time to kind of iron out the whole details and see how it's relevant for any of us that are in that position. But like I said, please ask me for help if you've got any, even if I can't answer the question, because of a lot of people I know within that world. I've got a couple of friends who are working currently within banks. That's why I'm getting a lot of information from for this, and they're telling me various things are going on. Please ask me, and I will pass on the question and hopefully get an answer as quick as possible. Lastly from me, various things just coming up. So I've done a number of we did our first online networking session a couple of days ago, which we had about 15 people on, which was great. Quite a few coming up. I know there's lots of these out there at the moment, so if you want to join any of them, please, it'd be great for you to do so. A few of the dates are on there. We have got the collaboration sessions that I booked in about 2 months ago, and are obviously now in the middle of all this that's going on. I'll send you've got the links to the various Eventbrites and all the stuff's out there. And then the next one of this is, again, the last Friday of the month, which is the 24th. The plan originally was for that to be a bit of a session all about, because as many of you know, I'm kind of repackaging the whole Northern Affinity piece, and kind of goes back to what Phil did earlier. But that's kind of what the discussion was going to be. I'm going to have to wait and see on that, and just kind of a bit closer to the time and see what's relevant and decide whether to put that back and do something different. But we'll see on that one. And that is it from me. I've tried to rush through the last bit because I appreciate I'm very aware of the time, and I know there's a lot going on. I did say we'd finish by 1:15, and I've done it with 1 minute to spare. Bit of a rush through the last minute, but obviously I know a few people have got off because they've got various things. Please feel free to, if anyone's got any questions for me now and want to stay on, or for anybody else in the group, please feel free to do so. And if not, try and have a good weekend in your house, in your back garden, and on your one visit out of the day. But and most importantly, on top of all that and everything else, try and stay healthy, everyone. That's the main thing. And I'm sure all this business and work stuff will sort itself out for most of us. Like I said, any questions, give me a call or stay on the call, stay on this, and have a good weekend, everybody.